Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning into AMTV, Alternative Media Television. Pulitzer Prize winner Seymour Hersh, I believe he won it in 1970. He's won numerous other awards. He's a 5-time Polk Award winner for broadcast journalism. He also won the George Orwell Award in 2004. Basically called out Obama and his entire administration this week. Essentially calling Obama, the President of the United States, a total piece of shit. Basically calling his entire administration a lie. Pointing a finger at, and this is a guy, again, that's uncovered things like the My Lai massacre in Vietnam. He's famous for that, one of the reasons he won the Pulitzer Prize. He's also done exposés and unearthed cover-ups at Abu Ghraib prison when George W. Bush was president of the United States, U.S. torture, again, exposing the corruption at the tippy top of Washington, D.C. Came out this week and basically said the entire Osama bin Laden raid was basically a giant White House conspiracy. So the piece of shit that makes up the President of the United States could boost his poll ratings. He basically suggests through evidence and his source, his anonymous source, which people criticize him for using anonymous sources, even though if they were public sources, they'd probably be publicly assassinated by the piece of shit that makes up Obama and his administration, basically came out and said that entire Osama bin Laden raid, where allegedly Osama bin Laden was in a firefight and hid behind a woman before the SEAL team came in heroically and pumped, 10 bullets into his skull. And then instead of giving us any real hardcore evidence, anything like that, they just kind of kicked his body off a U.S. warship, gave it the proper Muslim burial, even though that makes no sense. Basically suggests that none of that really happened. Yeah, they still probably kicked his body, at least that's what they say. That's the official narrative off the U.S. warship. But basically he describes, as does his source. Again, this a very legit guy, won the Pulitzer Prize, for God's sakes, won the Polk Award 5 times, the George Orwell Award in 2004, basically described Osama bin Laden like he was an invalid. He wasn't engaged in a firefight. He was actually being held in Pakistan by Pakistani intelligence that profited in the sum of about $25 million, leaking this information to the U.S. government so Obama could use it, even though they were tossing around the idea that they might do a drone strike or something like that, then sell that as a big propaganda campaign to the American public. It's basically was just a giant puff piece for Obama, a outright premeditated murder of an invalid who Osama bin Laden might as well have just been in a walker or something like that, being held against his will by Pakistani intelligence and intelligence agencies around the world. So that entire story, you remember the people in the streets like, yeah, we got Osama bin Laden, he's dead. Yeah, Team America, F yeah. That was based on total misconception, total lies, and total propaganda. And again, Seymour Hersh, a Pulitzer Prize winner, has exposed the George W. Bush administration. He's exposed the right. He's exposed the left. He's very famous for unearthing really these tragedies, like the My Lai massacre that took place in Vietnam, of which, again, he won the Pulitzer Prize. So this just only adds more proof to the pudding, but what's so damning about it is this guy's credibility. I mean, the White House is looking at this and his PR team, Obama's team, going, oh shit, Seymour Hersh you told the truth, threw Obama under the bus, what are we going to do? Thus far, the White House has denied it, which only tells me, again, that it is true. Part of me even questions if Seymour Hersh is getting all the facts correctly. I mean, honestly, Osama bin Laden might as well be the Easter Bunny. I mean, we know he was trained by the CIA. We know that Al-Qaeda was trained and created by Al-Qaeda. By the CIA. This is all undocumented, declassified information, folks. We know that Osama bin Laden, for example, was fighting with the U.S. assets and intelligence against the Russians in the first war in Afghanistan, only so that we could turn against them and use it as a giant public PR propaganda campaign. Kind of like ISIS. Notice after Obama allegedly assassinated Osama bin Laden, there was a new boogeyman created in the name of ISIS, in the name of ISIL, in the war on terror that was, again, a part of George W. Bush's administration and has quickly transitioned just in a new format, Al-Qaeda to ISIS, Al-Qaeda to ISIL as the new fear campaign. You see, the United States of America has to keep the American people in a constant state of fear. Without fear, there's no real adequate implementation of the police state and the surveillance state that makes up America today. It's tough to justify illegal wiretapping and surveilling of you and your family's phone records, as you just kind of go about your daily business and engage with your family and friends, or maybe make love to your wife as you're being spied on by your cell phone, illegally, anti-constitutionally, by Obama. But what's great about this unearthing, what's great about this release, what's great about this story is Seymour Hersh only confirms what Americans already knew. And that's that Obama and his entire administration, and the White House specifically, is a total piece of shit. Obama, a total lying sack of shit. A total scumbag. Again, all of this bullshit and all of it propaganda. We can go back to other stories like Pat Tillman that Obama wasn't a part of, but the White House at the time was, selling us the lie that Pat Tillman, American hero, NFL superstar from our state playing for the Arizona Cardinals here in Arizona locally, was gunned down by Al-Qaeda and using that as a propaganda pitch for the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, only to find out that was total bullshit, that was a total lie, that he was gunned down by our own troops, by our own U.S. government, our own military. Again, all of this now public knowledge and in the public sphere. You see, the goal of this, folks, is to keep you in a perpetual state of fear. If it's not Al-Qaeda as the boogeyman, if it's not Osama bin Laden as the boogeyman, the Easter Bunny, or Santa Claus, it's ISIL, or it's ISIS, or it's these stories, if you draw a cartoon of Muhammad, you'll be murdered in broad daylight. Not to say that those things don't happen, that there's not legitimate terror, but the White House and the U.S. government is using it to their advantage. They're coming up right out of their ass, quite literally, as Seymour Hersh suggests, pulling a rabbit out of his hat to increase the poll numbers, to get you behind Obama at the White House, even though they really just premeditated, murdered Osama bin Laden, allegedly, if the guy even existed, who was being held in Pakistan, of which they rewarded, allegedly, $25 million being held by Pakistani intelligence. An invalid who wasn't playing Xbox and banging Pakistani hookers at the time, who was probably walking around in a walker being held against his will in whips and chains, only so we could hear the bullshit story of U.S. forces and the SEAL team coming in and just pop, 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 pop straight to his head. If Seymour Hersh wasn't close to, I believe, 80, he probably wouldn't even come out with this story. I mean, he's probably on Obama's kill list. Again, another declassified fact. Obama has a kill list. I mean, when he's not murdering U.S. citizens like Anwar al-Awlaki without trial, judge, or jury, he's pulling this bullshit out of his ass, a rabbit out of his hat, in regards to these stories and propaganda campaigns around the murder and public assassination of figures like Osama bin Laden. Again, I'm not even convinced Seymour Hersh has the whole story. I mean, at the very least, what Seymour Hersh is telling us is the truth. At the worst, it's a far greater conspiracy. I mean, maybe Osama bin Laden, honestly, was just totally an illusion. Totally the Easter Bunny. Totally Santa Claus. Didn't even exist. Maybe it was just CGI animation putting them together. Kind of like ISIS in these beheadings, which are better and more highly produced than some of the videos you see in a professional studio here at AMTV. So, more proof to the pudding, folks. More damning evidence to damn this president, to expose him for the scumbag that he really is, the piece of shit that he really is. And we have Seymour Hersh to thank for it. So thank you, Seymour Hersh. Thank you, Pulitzer Prize winner. Thank you, 5-time Polk Award winner. Thank you for your excellence in broadcast journalism and journalism. Thank you for your George Orwell Award in 2004. Again, this guy very high up on the credibility scale, which must have Washington, D.C. And the political whores that make up our elite today that don't represent us, but represent themselves, corporate interests and lobbyists, very, very concerned. I'm Christopher Green. Get this video out everywhere, make it viral, hard-hitting it in your face, and click the link below to support our sponsor.